to seal the minutes of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to seal the minutes, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the school committee under personnel, 42-46-5A, 1, voted to approve the recommendation of the superintendent. Next item, 4, recognition, having none this evening. Item 5, consent agenda. Approval of minutes, warrants and invoices, bids. It was Donison last month.
Oh.
Alex, you want your turn? Okay, got it?
I make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2017-18 school warrant number 7 for the month of January, dated February 13th, 2018. Oh, sorry.
No worries. No worries.
Make a minutes to accept the minutes of January 9th.
Please note that I will abstain from voting on the minutes because I was excused at the January 9th meeting.
Second?
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. This is on the approval of minutes. I have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Warrants and invoice, did you finish that motion, Sylvia?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion
Second?
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have no bids this evening. Item 6, presentation by the public to the school committee. Financial audit presentation, Kaya Kasha.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am here tonight to talk about the audit for the year ending June 30, 2017. I believe what you have in front of you is a copy of the audited financial statement as well as a 3-page communication with governance, and an agenda is being passed out right now. I'm going to start with that communication with governance. Anytime we issue audited financial statements, we are required to issue this communication. The first thing that we discuss on page 1 is accounting policies and accounting practices. We list the few new accounting policies that were adopted during fiscal year 2017, none of which really had a significant impact on the school department. On the top of the second page, we talk about accounting estimates. Included in the financial statements are certain estimates. And the most sensitive disclosures were disclosure of long-term liabilities in footnote 5 and compensated absences in footnote 8. We're required to tell you that the financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. If we had any significant difficulties during the audit, we would have communicated that to you already. There were none. And any audit adjustments that exceed a certain materiality threshold, we are required to report to you. There was just one as it related to the Levy rank for fixed asset additions, and that's listed on that second page. If we had any disagreements with management, we'd be required to tell you. We had none. And if we're aware that management consulted with other independent accountants about any auditing or accounting matters, which is their right to do, we would have to tell you that. And again, there were none. There were no issues that we discussed with management prior to our being retained. And on the third page, if there's any required supplementary information included in the financial statements, we're required to tell you, and there was, and I'll point that out to you when we talk about the financial statements. So moving along, do you have any questions before I talk about the financial statements? So the financial statements are the bound report that you have in front of you. The good news is I think we might be a little pressed for time, so we're not going to go through every page, but just talk about some of the highlights. And the first thing I want to talk about is the opinion, and that's right after the table of contents. And that is our audit opinion, and that's unqualified or unmodified, and that means that we believe that the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. After that is the balance sheet for the general fund, which is the main operating fund of the school department, as well as a column for all the other governmental funds, and that is a summary of all the grants. All the grants are outlined in the back of the financial statements, starting on page 51. So if you're interested in a particular grant, Title I or special education, those are all listed in the back of the financial statement. But on page 4, the general fund, the largest asset that the school department general fund has is basically the cash it has on deposit with the town, $2.7 million, and then another $1.3 million in cash. So those are the major assets. And then the major liabilities, accrued payroll. So we, at June 30th, we payroll and whatever is due for the prior fiscal year, we accrue that, $2.3 million, and then $1.3 million of accounts payable. But more interesting on page 5, statement A2, is how did the school department do during the year? So just on a generally accepted accounting principles basis, there were more revenues than expenses. The third line from the bottom on page 5 of $124,648. On a budget this size, we call that basically break even. What that shows is that with the revenues that the school department generated, they were very careful with how they expended the money, and so basically it came down to break even. Spent, within the means of what they have. Starting on page 6 are the two enterprise funds of the school department, the cafeteria fund, which we also call the lunch fund, and the Levy Rink. On page 7, you can see how those two funds operated during fiscal year 2017. The cafeteria fund, again, close to break even, had a small loss of $9,400, more expenses than revenues. And the rink had more revenues and expenses of $59,000. However, that includes a transfer from school general operations of $44,000. So without that transfer, really it had more revenues and expenses of $15,940. If you go to the very last page of the financial statement, these are all the different student activity funds. And they are, although Robin does have some supervision, they are more or less handled at each school. Either the principal or the administrative assistant is involved with them. And on the checks, there are 2 signatures that are required. So a little bit separate from, because they're decentralized, a little tighter controls over the funds at those schools. We don't think that it generates maybe a lot of money, all the bake sales and the field trips and the dances. But indeed, $473,000 was collected during fiscal year 2017. So it's not an insignificant amount of money that goes through there, and so we do want to make sure we have tight controls there. So from where we started to the last page, what's in the middle, and what I'm not going to go over in page by page detail, are all the footnotes that accompany the financial statement. And probably better than half of that relates to the pension plan. The disclosures there have gone from a couple of pages to maybe close to 15 pages. This was the result of GASB statement number 68, where we are required now, at least on the town's financial statements, to record the actual pension liability as a liability of the town. And during fiscal year 17, also on the town's financial statements, we did the same thing with other post-employment benefits. So based on the union contracts, what you offer for health and dental insurance for retirees, that's now captured on the town's financial statements. That is it in a nutshell. We just had a couple of comments that we thought might be worth mentioning, and that is some tighter controls over the Levy Rink disbursements, specifically as it relates to it's actually receipts, not disbursements. Just the procedure when people pay for a deposit for ice time. Mm-hmm. And the other has to do with student activity fund disbursements, just at one particular school where we could maybe tighten them up a little bit. We have a written letter going to Robin for her responses that's going to be available within the next couple of weeks. So that is it in a nutshell. I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you have.
Donna, can you tell us the relevance of the second package? I don't know why we got two this year. Am I the only one that got the second one?
Those are the UCOA procedures.
Okay, that's what this is.
Okay.
Okay. UCOA procedures.
Maybe that's
Does
from the year
anyone have
before.
any questions for Don at this time?
Oh, the single audit, maybe?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's a single one.
Okay.
So that's an audit that we found that's completed with the town.
Yeah, so anytime that the town, in combination with the school, expends over $750,000, we do yet more procedures over just the federal monies. So this year, we did at the town level, we did the Community Development Block Grant Program. And at the school level, I believe we did Title I, IDEA. And I think the only comment we had on that had to do with time reporting. So when teachers either split their time or if they're part on the school general fund and part with a grant, they just need to keep detailed records to make sure that they're charging their time appropriately. So other than that, we didn't have any findings. And we do very different and detailed procedures as it relates strictly to the compliance over these grants. So a little bit different than the financial statement audit in terms of what we look at.
Do any committee members have questions? Donison?
Sure. In terms of compliance issues on those findings that you related to IDEA, and I noticed a number on the town side as well. Is there a financial implication to the town for not having met those benchmarks in terms of reporting, or is that just a clerical mistake that then gets resolved, or how does that impact us financially?
Yeah, so the concern is always, could it affect our funding? That's always the issue, and that's why that's how we report that. The types of findings that we found, both on the school and the town side, wouldn't rise to the level of loss of funding. But we use a different materiality threshold. We use 5% of the grant expenditures as whether this is significant enough to raise to the level of a finding. So I believe there was one on the school, and I know there were several on the community development program, but nothing that would result in loss of funding.
Okay. Another question, if I could. In terms of looking at our balance sheet, I know the year end, there's a difference between our fund balance at the end of the year and just getting a concept of what's left in our account. The unassigned balance would be the number we'd be looking at for available funds to the
Correct.
school, as opposed to the larger number.
Correct, so the
fund at the end.
558,000 is what is available.
But do we have still have funds payable out of that amount?
No, that 558,000 is unreserved.
Unreserved, okay,
So that's a surplus.
okay,
It's undesignated, yeah.
yeah.
And I just have one more,
Yes.
if you don't mind. The last page of the reporting, page 59, the different funds that are generated through the different schools are all handled sort of on the individual school level. And I don't know if the disbursements, this is more of a question for Robin and an in-house type thing, but in a general sense, I know the rink has its own operating numbers. Does the rink report their ticket sales through the rink fund activity versus like a basketball game where they collect the money and that goes into a different account? So, I'm just trying to get
So all the athletics are under student activity accounts. The rink is, yes, a separate account.
So the ticket sales for ice would be the rink, though? It would go to the rink's fund? Okay,
Right. That's counted as revenue.
okay,
That is ticket sales.
okay. Okay, I think that covers what I was, oh, and what, sorry, can I do one more?
Yes, go ahead, Colombo.
You did switch from GAP to GASB, and it says there's no material difference, but just a quick explanation as to why that's important or how that impacts the...
What page of the
statements.
report are you looking on?
Well, I think that
Switching
in
from-
your, the general thing, you're going from GAP, it's
Oh,
now
okay.
being GASB as
Yes.
being the format.
So let me just show you one more page, because on page 49, this is where we actually compare the budget to the actual results. And so you can see basically state aid is what was budgeted, is what was received, and then 40,000 more in miscellaneous revenue than what was budgeted. And then the expenditures, you can see the controls there and how basically, you know, as a percentage, all the variances are very small. The difference here between this basis, which is the budgetary basis, and the beginning of the report that I showed you, the difference is that encumbrances are counted under this basis. An encumbrance is basically an open purchase order. So if we encumber money by June 30th for the budget, we can take that as an expense. For a GAAP, which is generally accepted accounting principles, we cannot. So the good or surface has to be received by June 30th, not just encumbered, not just putting out a purchase order at the end of the year. So that's the difference between the bottom line. So on the budgetary basis, we actually had a surplus of 145,000, and it was 124,000 for GAAP. So that small difference was the change in encumbrances from year to year.
Well, it makes more sense, I think, right?
It does,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because that's how you budget. So we
Makes sense.
present it in accordance with how you budget.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item, 7, public comment. Anyone wishing to address the committee, please stand up to the podium, state your name. Having none, item 8, personnel appointments, leaves of absence, retirement, resignations.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the following leaves of absence. Keith Tucker, grade 1 teacher at Austin T. Levy, honor before 5/25/2018 for 2 weeks. Kyle Wilson, grade 6 math teacher from Burrillville Middle School, honor before 3/2/2018 through the 19th of March of 2018. Danielle Anderson, school social worker at Austin T. Levy, Steer Farm, and Callahan, beginning of the 18-19 school year through October 5th, 2018. And Jason Leduc, grade 2 teacher at Steer Farm, on or about March 14th, 2018 through April 27th, 2018.
Second.
Motion to second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the following appointment. Lauren Taylor, teacher assistant at the middle school, effective 2/14/2018, step 1 of AFSCME contract.
Second.
Motion to second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And then I make a motion to approve the following athletic appointment. Lindsay Lacey, softball assistant, volunteer.
Second.
Motion to second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the resignation or retirement of Richard
I
Phelan.
missed one, I'm so sorry. I'm like waiting for the
With
next
many
item.
thanks for many great years. I remember him as a teacher when I was growing up.
I will second that.
He got me to play guitar, so. Motion second.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
With regret.
Oh, may I add, I neglected to set effective June 29th of 2018. I apologize. Amended motion.
Thank you.
In my defense, Mr. Chair, it's not listed on my paper. So that's why I didn't make that
That's okay.
motion. But I do approve it.
All right,
It
The
wasn't
digital?
on the digital copy.
It's not on mine either.
Okay.
That's why when he said that, I was
I know,
frantically
I was
looking
like,
around.
mm.
It's not on mine either.
digital copies.
The digital copy
Okay.
didn't get it.
Okay, we'll get to the bottom of this.
No, that's okay. I just, for clarification.
Item 9, old business, fiscal year 18 BSD budget update.
Motion to open.
Second?
Motion open and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Fiscal year 18 rink budget update.
Motion to open.
Second.
Motion open and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 10, superintendent's report.
Motion to open.
Motion
Second.
open and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Dr.
Thank you,
Plata.
Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. The town has requested the use of our gymnasiums for primary day and election day. We approved that. We put that into our calendar, which was reflected in the calendar that you have before you. So I recommend that you approve the calendar for the 18-19 school year.
Motion to approve the 18-19 school year, but calendar.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We're also asking you to approve a new job description as we deal with students that normally would be tuition students and we bring them back into the district. We're looking for a person who is more highly qualified to service these young men and women. So we're asking that you approve this new job description, which we currently do not have.
Motion to approve.
A second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Sylvia?
Behavior technician, what is that? It sounds very,
It's a behavior specialist.
so instead of the word specialist, they put technician.
Yes, that's the formal term.
And this comes from the Power School group. Can you tell me something about that?
The what group?
Power School Group, LLC.
Where does it say that? In
I looked it up, it's SPED program, I think it was in our notes, Power School, or at the special ed program. Do you know anything about that?
So a registered behavior tech is actually a credential position. Currently, our behavior specialist is not credentialed. This is a national certification program through the EACD, and I apologize because I can't remember what all the initials
Yeah, I read
stand
that
for.
too.
But it is nationally certified, and they have to recertify on a yearly basis.
Is it something that Department of Ed has agreed to continue?
It's not a Department of Education certification, it's a national board.
It's national
certification.
service. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Dr. Plata, you're gonna discuss the primary election building use?
I did that.
You did that?
That's
In the
just gone
school
into the
calendar.
calendar.
Oh, it's on the calendar. Okay. Item 11, administrators' reports.
I make a motion to receive and file.
Receive and file.
Receive and file, with many thanks to all the administrators who put the packets together. Can I make one comment?
Yes.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Lyons for having me in at Steer Farm for Kindness Week. I went in on Monday and was able to see a presentation given by Chris Poulos. He's a professional bicyclist, and he talks to the kids about kindness and good choices in school and in life in general while doing his stunts on his bicycle. So it was the second time I saw the presentation, but I felt like it was the first because it was just as interesting and engaging. So thank you for having me. And throughout that week, they also painted rocks for their Kindness Rock Garden, which I presented on a few months back. So I'm really excited to know that the schools are really putting in the time and energy to get that started.
I will second that motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. We need to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Reports of school committee subcommittees. Having none this evening. Item 13, correspondence, communications. First item, robotics team request. So you have a letter before you for a request from the robotics team. They are requesting $1,100 for vans for the trip. Dr. Plata?
Yeah, the robotics team obviously did well again in the States. They placed first. They're going to Pennsylvania to compete. And last year they asked us to support a couple of vans to transport them down there. The school committee did approve that. Mr. Aldridge is asking for the support of the 2 vans again, if the school committee can afford it. My recommendation is that the school committee allocate $500, and the remaining dollars should come out of their account, where they have the capability of raising funds. And I believe they have approximately $2,000 in their student account. So
I
I
will
would
make that
recommend
motion.
$500.
To give the robotics team $500.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Invitation from the town council. You'll have a letter before you. This is regarding an annual meeting with legislators. And I think we can just receive and file, just for information purposes.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See you March 5th.
Mark your calendars.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
I apologize, I missed who seconded.
Did I second it?
I did.
Oh, you, over there, those, first and second, yeah.
Sorry, thank you.
Wow, quickly forget.
14, new business. Non-renewals recommended by superintendent. I'll entertain a motion on that.
Motion to accept the recommendations of the superintendent.
Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Policy P 7314, wellness, revised first reading.
Motion to approve policy P7314, the wellness, revised first reading and dispense with reading.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, discussion?
Page 8 of the health and wellness thing. It says something about 20 minutes a day for high school students for gym. And I was concerned because I know parents have come to me and said that they don't get gym but every other week in the high school,
It's an average of 20 minutes. It's an average of 20 minutes.
a day.
Average. Doesn't have to be every day, as long as it's an average of 20 minutes.
I know, but these people are saying they only get it, they don't only get it every other week. This is what I was told.
Well, they,
It's not accurate?
No, gym is, at the high school, gym is, given on the, done on the semester basis, and students, it rotates through the cycle. So in a 7-day cycle, they have gym 5 days for 65 to 140 days. And so over the course of the year, the aggregate amount of time is equal to what's required by law.
So there's a major block of time where they don't have gym.
So they would have one semester without gym each year.
Any other questions? I'd like to thank Alex for initiative on this. This has been quite a task taken up by Alex, and she had a lot of meetings, and excuse me, she's had to revise an awful lot of items on the wellness, so thank you very much for your initiative on this.
Can I just add one quick question as well? I'm sorry, did you have something to say?
I just said thank you.
How effective are we at meeting the minimum 20 minutes for lunch? I know that's sometimes an issue, but are we still a little ways away from making that work? Do kids get a full 20 minutes at sitting down at the table,
I think it,
pretty much? Yeah,
isn't it 22, yeah.
okay. I'm just curious, that's all.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. School committee resolution, contract negotiations.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second?
Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approve homeschool applications.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
A motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 15, committee on agenda items. Having none, item,
I
oh,
just have one
okay.
quick thing, sorry. The subcommittee that was formed to look at policy for students participating in athletics and extracurricular activities, we've continued to meet, and we've put together what we think is efficient for the district. So hopefully that will be in our packets in March, and then you'll be able to see what the subcommittee put together. I just want to thank them for coming together. It was made up of administrators, parents, teachers, so again, a very collaborative effort.
Great,
So
thank
big
you.
thanks to them.
Thank you. Item 16, pending issues. Having none this evening. Item 17,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
7:50. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.